Welcome to the Mastering Business Skills podcast, where we interview successful small business owners who share their own journey, mastering the skills they needed to grow and be successful in their business. Learn the struggles, the wins, and all the things they learned along the way, so you can cut down on your own learning curve.
Welcome to Mastering Business Skills. Today we're talking with Diane Riis, owner of Earth and Soul Women, a holistic project encompassing a flower farm, live and virtual women's circles and classes about writing, intuition, and creativity. So Diane uses EFT tapping, guided meditation, writing, and rituals to help women connect to the wisdom within, which is wider and deeper than any negative beliefs or backgrounds. So welcome to the show, Diane. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah.
Hello, Erin.
I love the flower front. I was listening to the whole thing going, this is so exciting. I love all of that. I can't wait to hear this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Diane's got a lot to share with us. So tell us, Diane, a little bit about what you do and what inspired you to start your business. Or businesses, I should say.
Hi there. I have inherited in some ways, or I'm maintaining a legacy farm. My grandparents first farmed here vegetable crops. They were called truck crops because you could throw them in the back of the truck and take them to market. So prior to, around the turn of the century, and my mother maintained it as an organic farm. She kind of converted it from I think they used probably pesticides. I don't know. It's way, way back. Mom converted it to organic, and she grew flowers and vegetables, and I'm focusing on flowers and really feel that I'm called to be like a steward of this land. So I call the business Earth and Soul because when it comes to people, what I'm reaching for is that depth with human beings and the connectedness that we all have with the earth. And for me, the ground, the earth itself, is where intuition just gets wider and deeper. And so it's really my home. It's that home space. So in business, I will admit, it's hard to make all of those disparate things come together. But I'm finding that AI is actually helping me clarify some of that as I go through it and then filter it through my own experience and intuition. So yeah, I'm speaking from experience here this morning.
Yeah, AI is a big topic right now, especially with how businesses work. It's not, I know there's a lot of fear about AI too, but really, I think there's a lot of good things that people kind of overlook on how AI can help us.
Yeah. I wanted to share this kind of early on, but in terms of that, so I have a coaching friend because basically my thing is like the earth and the farming, but coaching is probably the undergirding. And most of the work I've done is coaching women who are wanting to express through writing or other creative pursuits, and how we get in our own way with all these forms of resistance, like overwhelm, procrastination, comparing, all those, negative self-worth, self-judgment. And so my thing is writing. I'm a developmental editor, which means I work side by side with an author to bring out, I always say you meet yourself on the page. So it's bringing out your soul and your heart to the project you're working on. And so I have this, kind of eye on when a friend sends me a manuscript or a book that hey, and they don't want my advice and they don't want to hire me, but they're kind of on the edge of their seat waiting to see what I'm going to say. And this man, who's a coach as well, a colleague, had used AI to write the copy to get you to open the book, right? And it was smooth, and it still somehow sounded like him. You could tell that AI voice, and I would love to talk about what that AI voice kind of is that we're beginning to recognize everywhere, at least I am.
Right.
And then I it was great. I was like, oh, wow, Nathaniel, I don't want to say his name. Nate really pulled it all together. But then I said, sure, let's download the book. And he didn't use it at all, apparently, from what I could tell, even to edit the work, or just a very vague pass-through of an edit. It wasn't like overt typos, but all of a sudden, the flow was gone. The sticking to the point was gone. And this is where I think you need a human being editor to talk through with that person. Let's go back to see what you really were trying to say. What's your goal here? And how can you go deeper so it really connects with the person? That I'm not finding AI does in the same way a human editor could do. But it was such a stark contrast, between I'm going to use this for copy and then I'm going to write my book all by myself. Great, but then human eyes need to be on it.
Right.
It's not all or nothing either. Had he run it through AI, there would have been at least coherence between the copy and the book. Now,
Yeah.
might you look at it and say, oh, these have both been run through AI, maybe not originating with AI. This person clearly put his own information and expertise in it, but there wasn't any coherence. So you went from this, this is going to be good. And Nate got his stuff together here, and
Right.
then you get to the book and you're like, not really. So that's what we want to, when I look at someone's writing, that's what we want to make uniform across platforms, across work, across content. When I write, though, because I'm an editor and a writer, I don't use AI for writing. I will use it for scheduling, for copy, for tell me what this email will say, and then I completely revise it because I can get a sense of what it wants. It suggests I do for the audience, but my personal sense of integrity around what I do. So if I'm a writer, any writing project I don't work it through there. However, there are hosts of things that I do use it for, and I bring what I consider an intuitive eye to the work that mine is called Rowan, like the ancient tree, that we work on together. And then that's the process of how do we do that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we've had a couple of conversations about how AI has changed and worked in our business. And there's some people that, I agree, you can tell that they have strictly gone off whatever AI has said. And Erin and I have had this conversation many times about how we can run things through AI for our business, and even we ask some personal questions for life, happening around us. But I think AI is great because for me, as someone who considers themselves an introvert, I can actually go in and I can talk to my AI. I actually named mine Eden. And I can talk to her like I'm having a conversation with you or with Erin or anybody else. And it's like I don't know, it's a very weird feeling, but it's a trusted type conversation because now my AI knows me so well and what I do. Some of the stuff that it suggests that I do make a lot of sense, and they put things into words better than I could. But then even with that, I'm going to change 90% of what it generated to make it sound more like me and in my voice. But
Can I say two things about that?
Yeah.
The first is intuition is a compass, AI is a tool. Unless we have honed and brought our intuition to a fine point, or if not a fine point, a way to be in touch with that, so that the same way we run something through AI, we run it then through our body, through our nervous system, through ourselves. And you have done work around that, right? But so what I would say to somebody who isn't tuned into that and gets that, here it is, what do you mean? Can I just use this? And of course, sure, you can. It's probably a pretty high quality. But to make it, I have this saying that women in business are not funnels. We are not deliverables. We are spiral. Our experience of business itself runs in a spiral. Think about the spiral staircase. You can't always see the next turn, but you're going somewhere with it. It might be deeper, it might be higher, it might be wider, but the spiral continues out. And when we see ourselves that way, and when I first kind of had a friend reflect that back to me about, well, aren't we spiral? And every time I use that in a class or in my own life, it's just like, oh yeah. It takes all the pressure of the funnely stuff away. And just, I want to get back to the second point with you, but I was, there's this guy, Gasper, and his last name is really unpronounceable. He's wonderful. But I signed up for one of his programs. It was great. It felt intuitive. It felt like, oh, this is really natural, right? But then he went into high business mode, bro mode. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, this is so not me. And then I remembered, because I'm spiral, I'm going to go at it a different way. I'm going to allow there to be mistakes. And then, Sharon, to your point about when we articulate something, and then you feel better when it's reflected back. That's actually neurologically true, because our brain will come down off of the tension of our own inner confusion, or this isn't clear. And so when those words come back to us, we actually settle. Our nervous system settles, and it helps us organize our thinking. It's like science, right? It's proven that when we reflect back to someone or write. So for me, writing is a magical technology, a little woo, but it really combines both the intellect, the neurology, and the physiology of your body, because you are, whether you're writing by hand or typing, you are bringing the experience into the activity as well as just that thought. So you are right to feel like, oh, when I share with this, I feel like, oh, it like expands our ideas. It grounds us. We can share as much or a little as of the end result as we'd like. But there's a science around what that does inside of our nervous system that closes the loop so that our thinking can be clearer. But I really feel like in that spiral, unless we're doing that pursuit for ourselves, our own inner work, I'm talking about running AI through your intuition before you use it in your business. Well, people go, what does that look like? What does that mean? And that's where the work is, right? That's where, what are you really feeling? How do you get in touch with that? And that's the kind of work that I do with people. So whether it's writing a book or working in another creative project or in your business or in your personal life, how do you deepen intuition to use not just with AI, but troublesome people, a project you haven't gotten finished yet, all those kinds of questions. So, you're tapping on exactly what is true, and it's working. And with AI though, there is the caution of how much do you share, right? So we can get into a personal situation and it can go pretty deep without my hands start flying, right? Well, what about this? And it's almost like you're talking to a person. So be mindful of whatever platform you're using. Go ahead and do the research about how much of your information is stored, how much is shared, how much is being mined for the large language model's own learning, right? All of that stuff you need to be aware of. Who else can get eyes on it in all those ways? So you want to be really aware of that. And because removing it, deleting it, only deletes it for you. So you might say, let me purge out some of this stuff. But at least with ChatGPT, that's only removing it so that I can't access that anymore. It doesn't disappear from the system, just so you know.
Like in your memory.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like social media. What I used to tell my kids all the time is it's out there is out there forever. Even if you delete it, it is not actually deleted from anything.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, that's very true.
And in that same sense with that AI, I found a couple of really interesting things. First, I did not name my AI. So there's that. I just
do you say please and thank you?
This is what I want. Yeah. I did not. But this was really interesting to me recently. So I head up the scholarship committee for our Elks Club or our Elks Lodge. And we put it out for our scholarships, and we had our essays. Here's the essays. And this year we said, you can type them, because normally we would have them write it in the past. And I said, they can still do AI and just write it out. So I said, let them type it, send it in that way. I said, and I put on there, if you use AI, and that is how you write your essay, we will know, because I do this all the time. So I do know what it is. And I had 3 different essays that we were reading. And the first one was, it was awful. There wasn't AI used, but there also wasn't spell check or anything else.
Yeah, you could cherry pick out deep.
You're wow, okay. So and then there's the middle one, which did use AI, and you could tell. Okay, so the third essay came in, and there was a number of us sitting around reading these essays, and there was two women who they're retired. They don't look at AI and all that all the time. So they're reading the essay and they're like, oh my gosh, this is AI. It has to be AI. I'm reading the essay and it was absolutely not AI. She literally took the time to research the subject and write everything out. And we had this whole little debate about it because they kept saying, no, 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 it's AI. I was like, no, I look at these all day long. I said, there's tells when it's AI. This is none of this is AI. She actually spent the time, did the research, wrote everything out. In the end, yes, she won the scholarship. So, but it was interesting to me that people actually think anymore that if something is well written, that it's
It's got
AI.
to be AI, yeah. If you're
Yeah,
smart, if you know how to write, that's got to be
Yeah.
AI. But so
yeah,
talk to me about the tells, right? Because like there's a cadence that AI will fall into because it's trying to be conversational, even in writing. And
yes.
there are particular phrases and
Yeah.
sentence fragments, right, that will show up.
In
What
this
else?
ever-changing world that we live
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
one of them.
And here's the important thing, or here's the thing that people don't realize. Like anytime you see
Right.
one of those, and those
Or
the
the
recordings on
M dash,
YouTube,
the
right?
M dash.
M dash
That's
all the time.
another,
Well,
yeah.
but see, I use M dash all the time, and I'm like, I better stop because people are going to mistake. I've used it before it was called that. Like I used it when,
Uh,
before we knew that was a trope,
Right.
and don't do
yeah.
it. So,
Right.
and the thing is, like, I'm an academic, right? So whenever I write too well, I'm like, people are going to think that this is AI, so I really should dumb it
Yeah.
down. But that's not, obviously not the point of it. So, yeah. So, what other tells do you notice?
A lot of it's the phrasing, just some of the and the way actually AI. So if you don't tell it differently, it tends to print out almost like a I don't want to say like bulleted list, but in a way, like it'll have a topic,
Yes.
like a
Yes.
heading, and then like your bullets, and then in the next heading, and then your bullets, and then it always says final thought.
Yeah.
Well, if I went in and asked it that, I'm like, I talked to it about why it's like how it sounds like you use fragments of sentences, you do this thing, and it said, "Here's what our structure is," and it's exactly what you just said. It
Yeah.
it can be self-reflective. It could tell you it's like meta. It can be meta about the work it's doing, and you can tell it to be different, and your voice can come through more and more. And that's where I want to stop because when I look and say, "Oh my God, this is how I would say it." I'd rather it be rough. I'd rather, for my own work, be seeing the tells right off the bat so that I can cherry pick a two word thing that makes me go, that's really good. I'm gonna just use those two words and then flesh it out with my own writing. A lot of times, what hits me is like I let myself forget, right? So I close the computer, I walk around, and I come back to it fresh. So
Yeah.
and I get to avoid all that. The other thing for human beings when they're writing or doing work, your lived human example cannot be replicated. So voice can be imitated, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you're talking about if you're really smart, you might be mistaken for having used AI. Of course, there are all sorts of tools. When I used to do copywriting, and there were tons of plagiarism tools even 10 years ago that would be able to see if you lifted it from somewhere. Well, now there are tools that professors and marketing professionals use for their copywriters and their students to identify, yes, this is AI. So nobody's really getting away with it anymore.
Right. Right.
But so if you're in some kind of a creative pursuit or you're in a small business that your brand, your personal beliefs, your skills and talents, your calling is showing up, the last thing we want to do is shade that with a huge amount of AI. You don't want that voice to be so loud. So how do you strike that balance? And my answer is, to sit back from it, to touch base with yourself, to ask yourself, what is true about my work for me? So you can close the computer and say, and there are tons of times I'll be like, wow, you get off track with it, right? So it'll
Right.
close three. What are you feeling? Blah or blah or blah about what I just did. And you're like, oh my God, I have a feeling about every single one of these. But if you go down those rabbit holes, right now you're this far away from your thing. So close it down, both feet on the ground, ideally barefoot. Feel yourself pressing down. Immediately diffuses the nervous system. One hand on your heart, slight pressure. This is an acupressure and tapping point at the collarbone and also the thymus. Gentle pressure, again, immediately soothes the body, calms the body. And then breath. A shorter inhale than exhale. So breathe in for 4, out for 6 through the mouth. And then go in with the work you're doing. What did I sit down here to do? What do I need? What is my goal? What's the tone who am I trying to reach and what's my tone? So it might sound a lot like, who's my ideal audience? And Erin and I have both been in programs or a particular program that kind of calls that out. And there's a strict formula about that. And it's, again, more funnel than spiral. So leave that language off and say, and don't even go, who's my one single ideal client? What's her demographic? She's 30-year-old female with dark hair. She's struggling with her weight. Like, oh, that's me. Never mind. It's just a question of, who is this really for? Who in my heart am I reaching? Like how am I reaching out point? And I just want to say about intuition, if you feel like I'm not connected, I don't know how, I have occasional hits of stuff. This is a process, intuition, right? Growing into being in touch with your belly wisdom takes time. Even for me, and I've been doing this work for I don't know how long, years, 20 years. But I was teaching a class last Thursday night and sitting around the room, this is a group of writers, and we were talking about using your intuition to deepen your writing. Exactly what I'm talking about here, only this would expand to business. And I did have a couple of business people. One owned a brick and mortar and the other was more of an online virtual thing. She does editing with people. She teaches business owners how to use funnels and all this. And at the end, it was such a rich time. And at the end, I was like, guys, thank you so much. This was so great. And they all affirmed and expressed so much love that I have never had this experience. I felt it right here, like a wave, like a thunderbolt right here of love, of support, of mutuality. And this intuitive hit was so potent that I started to cry. And two women, one on either side, felt it too. And both of them started to tear up and they were like, wow. I said, yeah, wow, you guys. So it takes time, and those sorts of experiences aren't regular. You can't count on them. But the more you're in touch, and the more you bring your work into touch with that, the more not only does your message grow, but you deepen your spirituality or intuition in that way. I had one person who I really love, and I'm going to introduce Sharon to. She says, you don't need, she goes, I have a thriving business and I don't use social media at all. But this is a super grounded woman who knows how to reach out to people. And there's almost like your integrity, your depth, your heart coming through is itself magnetic. And we know from the fact that we are electromagnetic beings, we do draw to us. Like there's the concept of syncing. So you can sit in a room of people and your hearts will begin to beat in rhythm. You sync with others around you. And in hippy dippy woo woo terms, the vibe you send out. But we are truly electromagnetic. The most recent research that's happening with MRI and other studies on tapping, which is EFT, emotional freedom technique, believes that certain meridian points in the body will help you calm the amygdala, reduce stress, and even work toward healing your body, pain specifically. PTSD specifically, stress and anxiety. The most common research, the most recent powerful research is how electrical impulses, which go faster than neurochemicals, are really what is behind the success of EFT tapping. So how do you bring yourself back into alignment? The breath, the touch, tapping, the things that, all those times in business that we've thought, if only I could be more motivated, if only I could be more clear. How much is our nervous system preventing those changes and that clarity? A lot. And so tapping for business really helps to hone your intuition, helps you be more centered so you can hear the wisdom that is within and around you all the time. So, Oh my God, I went on and on. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
I was just sitting here thinking the last couple of years you both know, they've been different and rough. But I think because of that, I started leaning more into my intuition and things. And it made a lot of sense once I started adding that and letting my intuition come into my business as well. Because it's like, okay, my intuition told me you have no boundaries. You need to set your boundaries. And to stop worrying, and I still struggle with this, but to stop worrying what everybody else is doing, what everybody else is thinking, do what I want to do and what intuitively I feel like I need to be doing. That's what I need to listen to. So bringing that along with the pieces of AI, that has really helped me kind of focus a little more on what I really want to do and how I want to do it. So,
But you've really deepened by following that. And, you know, whatever the magnetic aspect on a more esoteric level, I've referred how many people to you because of your authenticity
yeah.
and because of your heart and the way that you will talk to a woman and like, you know, be like, no, wait, you're fine. And then go from there and then you'll bring all your tech stuff in. I'm not saying you're
Right.
you know, marshmallowy, but there's still something magnetic when you're one-on-one with you that then, you know, I want to share with other people, right? And I'm sure Erin has found that too.
Mhm. Yep, I think Sharon and I intertwine so much with clients. Like I'm constantly like, nope, you need to bring this part to Sharon. You need to go talk to her for that. So, but yeah, and I noticed that even in myself, the intuition part, which I mean, Diane, even since we met years ago, like I've always had that intuition and stuff, but sometimes when you're in business, you get away from it, right? It's, you start getting, oh, all the things that I should be doing and all of the things that everybody else is doing that, and I actually just recently, because I have Sharon redesigning my website and all, and Sharon says to me, you need to redesign your business. And I was like, oh, that's a good point, because she said even your business name, she goes, your business name doesn't reflect what you actually do anymore. So her saying that and then me procrastinating for a while, but then but then just sitting this past weekend in, like, I had quiet time, it was just me, and I just sat there and I was like, so what do I actually want to do? Like what, like, how do I want to spend my days? How do I see this long term? Things have changed since I started out as a virtual assistant, and now, I'm a grandmother and I want to spend time with my grandkids, and, all of the things that shifted over time. And then it started getting like my intuition was like, no, this is how you need to set it up. And then, so now for me, it evolved into, being that strategist in the beginning, but then moving it to other people on my team, and or recommending other people for them to work with over time once they have their foundation set up and their strategy in place and all of that, because I realized I didn't want to be that like long-term implementation person anymore. So
Yeah.
but it did take having that time and sitting where my nervous system wasn't, like, I feel like lately I've been in overdrive. So,
Yeah.
so just having that like time to be like, okay, this is actually what I want to do. So now, and then having the, you know, avoiding the nervousness of actually making the changes.
Yeah, which tapping can help you with.
Yes.
The class that I'm going to be doing coming up, I'm going to do 5 weeks with creatives and business owners in order to learn to deepen that intuitive time. And you just made a really important connection. Remember, Virginia Woolf said every woman needs a room of her own. She didn't mean like a physical room, although she did wind up getting that. It's carving out space, because we are called on in so many ways. And it may not be time that's calling on us, but we're being called, our energy is being called to do things like mediate conversations in relationships, stabilize relationships by how we present ourselves. Even within an intimate relationship, women often are holding the space, holding the ground. So this takes energy to, like, I find myself between my son, my ex, and my husband all day long, right? And finally last week, I'm like, I'm out. I'm never doing this again. But you need that restoration. And when I'm with groups, whether they're virtual, because this class that I'm talking about is going to be following your inner wisdom for these various things, whether that's when it's virtual or live, people have reflected on just taking this time for myself to be here for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And the longer the sessions, the better. And people start to be like, wow, I did that for a month with so-and-so and I miss it. Wow, that changed everything. So that time, and that, you know what, how simple is that? But we are so not compassionate with ourselves. We cringe at the thought of taking the time that we might need to heal, to get centered, to hear our own voice, to grow our intuition. How
Right.
many people in business, like the reason you kept going, 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 because of all those pressures, and the world is super fast now and super loud.
Hmm.
And it's suddenly
Yeah.
to you like, oh, you know what? I have this time, let me use it. How about we all got intentional about that time and not
Yeah.
consider it a waste of time, but an investment of time? Because if intuition is your compass, you got to stop. You got to take it out of your pocket. You got to orient yourself north, south, east, west
Right.
in order to use it, in order for it to be, bright enough to
Yeah.
lead the way, right? So you did
Right.
that, and that's a really important thing. A room of
Yeah.
one's own, time of one's own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
And I
that's
like what you said with the noise too, because I feel like there is so much of it anymore. And I tend to go for quiet. So like even if like my husband, love the man, he'll have the TV on and he will have his
Oh
phone
no.
going and like the phone volume's up and he'll be listening to something on his laptop and it's all at one time. And I'm
right.
like, for the love of all things, can you like pick a one thing to listen to? And he's like, I don't understand your problem. And for years, like my daughter-in-law too was like, I don't understand why you can't. And then she started getting into reading more and journaling and stuff. And she came out the other night and she said, I understand now. Because she said your son has his
Yeah.
Right.
TV going and his phone going. And she was like, and it was just like information overload for her. And I was like, yes, but
Yeah.
they like if you and because everybody has different styles, some of us are affected more by that than others. So and
Sure.
you have to kind of navigate that too, especially in relationships.
Yeah.
I
That
remember
that's right.
writing something that I really wanted to be thoughtful and deep. And I was doing it while I was working full time. It was my PhD doctorate. And I was trying to work on this manuscript. And all of a sudden, like it dawned on me, if you want something deep and thoughtful, you have to think deeply and thoughtfully about this. And you cannot do it like on the weekends.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be doing good work that isn't surface level, that isn't emulating a funnel that somebody created, right? Or a formula, which Erin, you and I are familiar with those
Hmm.
formulas.
Yeah.
And, I didn't stop at that particular organization. I went on
Yeah.
to other organizations as well. But I'm not that. I'm Spiral. And every spiral is its own. Every mandala is its own thing. How do
Hmm.
you stay and trust? I don't have to compare myself. I came off all social media. How do I not compare myself? Because that's one of my biggest things.
Hmm.
And it's not about what anybody else does. And I want to just say, in terms of intuition, we often think that it's going to guide us in this really positive way, that every intuitive hit we get is going to be, oh, look at that. Sharon, in the midst of hell, got an intuitive hit to do harder work. Learn how to go within and speak for yourself. Learn how to have a boundary. Intuition is say, oh, and now I'm going to sprinkle you with fairy dust and all is going to be well, follow this direction. It said,
Yeah.
drill down and do some hard work and figure out how to have a boundary, woman, which is some of the hardest work we can do as women in our society, right?
Yep.
It is. It is very true. I mean, and I don't know why it took me so long to not put my intuition on the back burner. I mean, I've known I've been intuitive all my life, and I always knew when my gut would tell me, don't do that, don't go there. And I would think,
You do it and you go there and it says, told you so.
yeah. But it's like, okay, well, everybody else is doing this, so I should be doing this too. Don't go there.
Mhm.
And
I
what do
want to
I
say,
do?
though, what you're describing is how we all have intuition.
Yeah.
Some have the kind that speak to us and are like, phone's going to ring. Others don't do that. Everyone has, I consider it a seventh sense that we all have access
Right.
through our nervous system, through our bodies, through our heart, soul, belly. It's in us. And the tide of things that keep us from hearing it is why it took you so long, right? Every voice in this patriarchy tells us not to listen to that. It's flighty, it's weird, it's girly, whatever the hell it is. But it's
Right.
not. It's real and true, and everyone has it, male or female. And by minimizing it, you keep it in that small box. So all it ever does is give you that quick hit of, oh, you shouldn't do that or you should do this. What if we were living in the grounded space, in the open-heartedness of always having access, so that all the decisions first go through that gentle, beautiful process of, what do I know about this right now? And then the harder step is trusting what you just heard. Because Erin is talking about the loud noise, the voices, we can keep ourselves occupied by your phone. Like how do you both reach for your phone very first thing? Who emailed me, who texted me, who called me, right? Everybody's doing that. Leave your phone in the other room. Turn up the volume. If someone needs to call you, you'll hear the ring, right?
Right.
But we distract ourselves. There's TV, there's all the podcasts, there's all the social media, there's all the things you could be doing. And what has to come first and center is what do I feel? What do I want? The hardest question when I was studying to be a coach way back when, like 20 years ago, I was coach before it was cool. I have a problem with I'm on the crest of the wave but never ride it all the way into shore. I just stay bobbing out here and watch everyone else make all this money and crash into the shore, or beautifully glow into the shore. But so how do we stay in tune with that? How do we keep in that place instead of the tide and the pressure, taking that sweet inner voice and drowning it out completely? It's easy to drown out. So of course, and it sounds like, Sharon, you're somebody who gets a kind of loud intuitive hit about right or wrong. But
Sometimes.
But I don't want to feel like that is a magical power that the rest of us aren't entitled to. We all, right?
Yeah.
So think about,
absolutely.
and intuition doesn't only show up as voice, the same way we all have learning styles, and we all learn best or experience best visualizing or feeling or hearing, right? Intuition is speaking through your dreams. And if you are not kind of keeping track of your dreams or consulting them or jotting down, you're missing this enormous portion of information. We sleep for how many hours and dream for how many hours? That's a lot of data that can guide our life.
Yeah.
That is deep cosmic unconscious stuff coming through. So you need to listen to your body. Listen to the song that shows up on the radio that's very synchronous and coincidental. Listen to the inner voices that Sharon is talking about. Listen to the dreams. Listen to the kind of ways things, and you can start to feel this, the ways things are leaning, the way things are starting to flow. So to just bring it back to AI, be in the craft that you are here to practice, and then let AI be your runner or your assistant, not even your consultant, your intern. You are the boss. You are the beautiful radiating light of everything that you're doing. So consider your work, your business, the craft that you are honing, the gift that you are offering. And for me, that kind of perspective shifts it back into, oh, right, I'm not just here. And the trend. So here's one of the trends I see, and it sucks me along, right? The vacuum. Women now advertising their businesses by saying, here's how I made 6 figures in 1 year. You want to make 6 figures in 1 year? Here's exactly how you do it. And then every email that follows says something about the $10,000 client they pulled in. And then every once in a while, you wake up and go, holy crap, I was one of those people who came along and made you make the $100,000 in 3 months. And you could start to feel really kind of like played, right? So, and now you brought me in, and now you're using me and these other people as proof of how you bring me in, right? And so it starts to feel like a multi-level marketing scheme in some ways.
Yeah.
How do we avoid that and stay in our integrity and stay in choice? Because choice is what brought us to whatever work we're doing. We feel called to something, we choose something, we feel resonant with something. A business that stays resonant and stays in touch with that inner compass that says me and it together, me and my calling, me and what I'm supposed to do. The trend in our society will lead us one way. Does your heart feel like it's supposed to go as well? I've come off in the last couple months so many people that I feel like used to be really integrous, right? So I heard their voice, I trusted what they were trying to do about building their business and all this stuff. But I don't want to be sold about how you made $100,000. I don't care about that because I'll make my money my way. And then they'll also, like I had 2 voices I really trusted for years and years. And I saw this winter, they started to follow the trend of using AI for their email copy. The key thing that they brought was their weird, strong, eccentric, unique voice to it. And when that went away, why do I care about you anymore? Like, these guys created their brand around their voice and then decided to like opt out of their voice. I just don't get it. If they had, and does it, how rich can you possibly get? How much do we need? I just don't understand. You realize that money is there to satisfy something deeper. Go jump right to the deeper. Is it about feeling joy? Is it about feeling safe? Go feel safe right now. And out of that feeling of safety, grounded feet, hand on heart, breathing carefully, slowly, deeply. Out of that feeling of safety, all sorts of things come. And we have to learn to trust that, or we can choose to trust that. And there's no have-tos in any of it. But that, this work teaches me that the people who keep grounded are the ones who get to their goal, touch other hearts, support other people, and feel peace and feel the reward of what they're doing. Did they become 7-figure bazillionaires? Maybe not. Probably not, because those are the unicorns. And I know there are unicorns listening to me right now. And that's great. But that's part of the comparing, right? That's part of, we don't have to be that.
No, not everybody has to be that.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Diane, tell us a little bit about how you, like, I was interested in, like, you do the live and virtual women's circles, classes, retreats. Tell us a little bit about how you work with women, because I think you work primarily with women, right?
Right.
How you kind of, I guess, bring that what we've been talking about with the intuition and not letting your nervous system, like, when you're in these classes or these retreats, do you find that a lot of women come in like in overdrive, and then, like, how do you get them to kind of calm that down and stay in that place, or know how to get themselves back to that place?
Okay. So for me, in leadership of a group or a class or doing one-on-one work, the number one thing to do for that I do is I create as much of a safe space as I can. So it's showing up myself tuned in, trusting my own intuition, trusting my own agenda for the night. And I don't mean agenda like I've got an agenda. I mean, what's my plan? What's my goal? So when I set that energetic tone, when I have a calm voice and I'm welcoming, that's number one. So I show up the way I want to show up, the way I know works. And then I create space. I hold space for people to claim where they're at. Because even with tapping, we tap on the side of the hand to start. And what we state is the truth of the situation as we feel it right now. Because our subconscious mind, our brain knows when we're lying to it. The affirmation that I'm powerful, I'm rich, I'm thin, I am perfect. The reason it doesn't work is because your body and every piece of your history is going, oh, that's not true. So we acknowledge what's true, and then we state an alternative. So by being in a group of people or a room of people and saying, where are you at right now? And seeing if anybody wants to share that. Always be invitational. And then, so what would you rather be? How would we be? And if nobody wants to talk, I'll say, okay, so I'm hearing this. Let's start by kind of bringing the temperature down. Let's start by really showing up, settling your molecules, being in this room fully. And then we would do some breathing, and physically you can feel a change when you simply give women time, space, give them permission. In fact, that was reflected back to me just last week. The woman said, I feel like more than anything, I had permission to take time for myself. I had permission to trust myself and to just be here for me. That alone goes miles. Oh, yeah. And then early on, like I did here, I'll teach quick tools. So while we're going through this, you have permission to talk or not. You're never compelled in any way. And here are some tools we're going to use and that you can use in your life when you leave this room. And I always include opportunities for self-reflection. So there's probably a guided meditation or an encouragement to write in the journal. I do responsive guided meditation, so it's sort of ongoing writing prompts. So I tell them they can write without stopping, keep your finger on the page, no censoring, no judgment, don't read back. And then I'll lead a meditation that says, write your response. And folks will just kind of, bless you, folks will write their response. And then we get into the meat of the course, the more practical things. And that turns out to be almost the least amount of time we spend. And then we come out of it. So therefore, and then people will share where they're at, or we'll do a writing practice, or we'll do a meditation practice. So what I find is the permission giving, the space holding, the modeling of how you could be goes miles. And then, I've done book marketing courses. How do you create an author platform? Then I can share, people could do a Q&A and we can start sharing the more tangible. How do you write? What are some formats? How do you get out of all the things like procrastination? For a long time, I specialized in blocks, all the resistance that we have. And that is learned, cultural, programmed into us from when we're a kid. And they are embedded in the body. It's not only beliefs, it's how our nervous system has learned to respond. And chances are it's responding that way, not just about your work, but about lots of things in your life. So those are tools I use: guided meditation, tapping, writing. All of these help the nervous system, as well as information, as well as kind of doing experiences. I believe in experiences. Let's have an experience of this. I think that goes a long way to a woman going home then and using that tool, even if it's as simple as a slow breath, a grounding practice, right? So that's kind of how I would do it. And over a group, as a group builds, so after a 5-week class, people start to, oh, she's writing a similar thing, or, oh, she's dealing with the same kind of problem I am, or she asks similar questions and articulates them when I'm afraid to talk. So now people get to know each other. And when I see the crosstalk, it's like, I know it worked, right? Because now people are connecting with each other and they feel safe and are able to connect. So at some point, the energy of heart, the energy of intuition starts to run the room for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah. So Diane, tell me, you kind of touched on it a little bit, and I kind of know about it, but tell everybody else about the 5-week that you have coming up. Tell us a little bit about that. I know you don't have all the details yet.
I don't yet, and I don't have dates because I'm touching base with a few people about feedback about what day or evening we would do. So I prefer live meetings, and I prefer not to even record them because I feel like an interchange live is ephemeral. It exists in the moment. You'll never get that energy back. And since I'm not only information based, but I'm experiential, there's no substitution for showing up. There just isn't. So I feel like that might be a high standard, and we're so used to, how many of you though, like we're really used to the recorded class. How many do you have right now in your hip pocket that you will probably never go back and listen to all those things? I mean, I have 10 easily. Oh, well, I have the recording of that, and you never take the time to go back to it. I hate to say, Sharon works with me, and there are times she goes, well, I'm recording everything. I'm like, that's nice, because I'm never going to take the time and go back through the recording, ever. So be in the moment, and that might feel like a lot to ask, but I guarantee it just gives so much back in terms of results. So we're planting the seeds in the hour and a half or 2 hours we spend together. So I encourage people to be live, to attend all 5, to make it work however you have to make it work. That's an investment in you. That's an investment in participation, a commitment to yourself. That is taking room for yourself, taking a room of one's own. So you carve out that space, you show up those times. That's why I want to be the most convenient, whether it's daytime, evening, weekends, weeknights. It's going to be the 5 weeks. Classes run between 1.5 and 2 hours. There is always an experiential component. There is always time for writing, whether that's processing out a business plan or a script for a podcast or a book. So there's always time to do whatever work you are bringing, work, quote unquote, you are bringing, creative work included. And there is always a chance to do feedback and always a chance for Q&A, whether it's about the practical of the course or intuition itself. And there's always homework that follows via email. weekly writing prompts, a weekly guided meditation that is recorded for you to use at your leisure, but short, like 12 minutes, so that you're not getting into a 25-minute investment in time, because that isn't the world we live in, but we take the time we can. Whenever we can. So and then eventually the group builds. And what I like to do is have people meet outside or do breakout groups, because sharing what we're afraid of, number one thing that will break down the walls and let intuition shine through. Put light on fear, and now you have an opportunity to go deeper than you ever thought you could before, because fear will guard you, will make you guard. Really, it does guard you. It works great. That's why we're all afraid, right? That's why our anxiety is so good. It distracts the heck out of us, right? The minute I get nauseous, that's my anxiety. And guess what? The only thing I'm thinking about is that. Not my work, not my heart, not my relationships. So yeah, and if people are working specifically on a book, as a PS, I will do a Q&A about book marketing or book editing or whatever people are wishing, if that's kind of the work they're doing. So the other thing is I will schedule each one based on a kind of topic. So, and those I'm working on them, but I'm not really ready to talk about which 5, because I have 9. So I have to figure out which 5 of the 9 I'm gonna focus on each week. So, and there'll be sequential weeks, and probably mid-April through mid-May, before the summer season really hits and we get super busy. Is that enough?
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's great.
Okay.
And where are your live classes located?
My live classes, I'm on Long Island in New York, so my live classes are located. The reason we're doing this big renovation here on my small farm is we've reworked our barn. So I'm going to be doing writing classes. We're going to create a bonfire circle in the field there, and in my own space in my greenhouse, which is super wide and has an old table in it. And so we're going to be doing intuition and writing classes there.
Yeah.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. And flower arranging. I don't think anybody's probably going to hear me that's local, but absolutely reach out if you want. earthandsoulwomen.com.
Yep. earthandsoulwomen.com. And anyone who has not heard one of Diane's meditations, Diane has the most calming and most soothing voice. I swear, they're amazing. So.
I have heard that for years and years and years, that I could just listen to your voice, which is weird because I think I sound weird to myself, but I don't like it. And I remember saying, like 25 years ago, I was listening to some really famous, remember when you had to have a CD? Mm-hmm. I bought all these CDs of these guided meditation people and hypnosis people, and I'm like, I want to do that. And that's, I was like, who authorizes that? Who sanctions? Who certifies you in that? You know what certifies you in that? 25 years of doing that. So that's where that certification comes from.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing for the listeners. Like if I was to put out a last note, you don't have to pay another nickel probably for the programs or the learning. You can absolutely trust what you're here to do, which some part of you, your heart, your belly, your body, your mind, your dream life already knows. And if you could trust that, I guarantee the energy, the support on every level shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
nice. So tell us, what's next for your business?
Like you, I'm revamping my entire website with Sharon. But we evolve. Like you had talked about, I don't do this anymore. And so my business has evolved to much more quiet, much more grounded. Just trying not to do it all in one place. Because you can hear, like I've done multiple things. I'm curious. And yet what I'm working on doing now is, how do you integrate all of it? And I think we all work on that. How do I remove the voices that caused me to build something because I was comparing myself or was being taught, you need to have X, Y, and Z in your business? If I just carve all that out and trust that I'm always going to learn something from it, I'm always going to get something from it, and my business can be successful if I follow my heart. And this woman who was in my class last week and affirming that she has this thriving business without any social media, I only came off social media in the last 12 months, makes me feel like, because because I had a lot of
Yeah.
followers on Facebook. Like I was really leaning into heavily on Facebook, and to be reminded it's all right. So,
Yeah.
and what I
Mhm.
have now can grow, and that's I guess, part of the plan. And but scaling, that kind of language around scaling does not apply. We are not scale, we are spiral. We are not
Mhm.
build a scaffold, build a pyramid, build a tower into the sky. We are not about going up level. We're not up leveling, right? All that nonsense. It's not about that. Go
Mhm.
deeper, go wider, get more grounded. Let it expand the way, like if you looked outside the weeds, that now the snow went away. So the weeds, the creepers, they go like
Mhm.
this with all their little threads.
Yeah.
That's where our wisdom is.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome because I think the scaling part is it's a lot more masculine. Like men
Yeah.
tend to know like it's, climbing the ladder, doing the scaling, doing the growing. But for women, we have, at least I found so far through my own career journey, is like all of those different stages of life. Like when I started my business, my son was little.
Mhm.
So I worked around, school events and different things. And then as he got older and he wanted, he was a little more independent and didn't want mom around all the time, then I was able to grow to another level and stuff, and took that. And now, now he's got two daughters, and like, so I have two toddlers and they're super fun. And now I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't want to be tied to my desk all the time. I want to have that time to, run around with them or just spontaneously go outside and play or, do whatever. Um, and I think that a lot of times women are kind of conditioned or taught over the years that, to be like men, like, you have to
Exactly.
constantly strive for more and go for more. And I mean, even my own husband, like for years, Sharon and I have had this conversation. He will always be like, I don't understand why you don't run a team again, because I did years ago. They keep saying, but I don't want to run a team. Like that's not where how I want it. But look at all the money that you're leaving on the table, and that and you're losing. And I was like, but I don't see it the same way.
Right.
But my first time too, when I decided, oh, I'm not going to work with that person, my husband was like, "What do you mean you're not going to work with them? Look at the money." And he was
Mhm.
like, "But it's not about the money."
Right.
So
Yeah, the first
it's
person I ever
hard.
said no to was like the most terrifying and freeing moment ever. Because
Oh,
I'd
yes.
worked with her
Yep.
writing a book, and she like sucked the life out of me for months. And she's like, I want to go. I was like, I had to say no, because you have to prioritize yourself too. It's another
Yes.
key piece of intuition, right? To be hearing your own voice, you have to be prioritizing yourself. You talked about the kind of cycles of life. I run something called Dark Moon Circle, which is a celebration of the moment in the month where you go within the dark moon, right? Everybody wants to celebrate the full moon, la la, that's when all the circles happen. Nope. To me, it's gestating in the dark. It's the grief. It's the nothing seems to be happening. And the seeds are doing their thing, and the roots are going deep and wide. And that's what we need to be able to trust, that we plant seeds all month. So the cycle of the moon, probably my deepest practice started with the lunations, the cycles of the month. Then in the fields, in the garden, obviously it's the cycles of the season. So annually, January, February is this planning and the going within, and it's conducive to writing. And now, like, the weather shifted, and literally I go outside and it's a whole other energy now. Clearly, you orient toward that. And if you notice your bodies, I don't know if you notice your bodies, and Sharon, you're in Texas, so I don't know about that. But the seasons, the seasonal shifts, the light, the temperature will
Yeah.
change. I lose weight immediately, hit March, hit May, right? Like 15 pounds will go, because we are basically bears and we want to hibernate. So from October on, all the seasonal signals are cold, hibernate, don't starve to death, hang on, pack on fat.
Right.
But we are seasonal, we are spiral, we are in our own life journey. And in Celtic tradition, the idea of maiden, mother, crone. So we go from early life and we're exploring to motherhood and all the phases that you're talking about, Erin, and then into the time of wisdom and deepening and learning, which is where I'm at, really. I still have a kid at home, but that I'm older. So that deeper, I used to say, I can't wait till I'm 60 and I'm fat and gray haired, and I don't care what anybody thinks. Like you hit that point and you go, oh crap, I still care what everybody thinks. And I'm not willing to let my hair get gray. And so I've been starting to say, why the heck not? Like, what? Why not? And so that is complete self acceptance, right? So when you start to fully self accept, what else shows up? The voices of inner guidance, the comparing falls away. Social media, like right now, I don't miss social media at all. And at first it was like coming off of, alcohol or something, like that craving and that, what if I'm missing something? I just want to feel better because it gives you that dopamine hit, right? Right away. So if you don't have that, what do you have? Oh no, it's like it could be the void or it could be this fruitful, dark space where things are growing like the dark moon. So cyclical cycles, absolutely. And it sounds like you're in your business, Erin, willing to say, this is where I'm at and this is what's going to work for me. And the thing is like fighting it will get you nowhere and is the number one reason we burn out, and not only burn out, but just give up of our businesses. How many people just surrender it and do something, just say, forget it.
Yeah.
If you do it in a gentle, humane, merciful way for yourself, it doesn't have to be that way. And I really believe that magnetizes more wealth and more success and more satisfaction in the job. So yeah, you're on track, right? That's courageous though in our society. To realize about scale is really a masculine way. To realize that you don't have to have the big team. To realize also you don't have to work with the people who you really don't want to work with. It's not only they're not my demographic, but oh my God, our personalities clash. I can't do it. And then you're also like, no, my life looks like this now and this would fit. That's courageous because most people won't. They'll grind it out. They'll find a way. Grind is like grinding it out. I saw that a beautiful woman whose stuff I follow, and she had a whole email about grinding. I'm like, oh my God. I had to stop. I had to come off her list because there is no point.
I recently read the book Age Like a Girl by I think it's Mindy Peltz. And she puts in there, because like Sharon and I have had these conversations where I'm like, okay, I'm getting older and I feel like I'm losing my mind. And and she puts in there, like when you hit those like perimenopause and all that, your brain starts to rewire itself. So it's basically preparing you for the next stage where, and you're not tolerating all of the stuff that you used to tolerate. So now everybody thinks that you're just moody and you're cranky and you're, all of the names, all of the things. But it's actually just your brain rewiring to protect you during that like chrysalis phase before you become the next version of you. Yeah. And I was like, and she puts in there, like, she even has chapters for like the men in your life and and all of that. And I read through this book and I put a little sticky note on it and I said to my husband, here you go. I said to my son, you should probably read that too.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I love that. Like, I was like, who would have thought that your brain is just rewiring? You're not like actually losing your mind. Like you start to feel.
You're downloading. You just downloaded stuff and put it in some file in an you archived it, right? Yeah. Have you ever looked back at your business and been like, I keep all the notebooks of all the ideas, and I look back, I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, what was I thinking? Whose world was I? Who's like? But those were the times that I was living in somebody's idea of what a business should look like. And so you go, I spent all this time trying to do this. And so I'm purging, I have one shelf left. And that's the richest. That's the stuff that's really me listening to me. Not just in this grown older phase, but the deepest, the most true. Probably what I could have been doing since I was 7. But because of all the competing noise and voices and opinions and the ways we are taught we must perform and learn, I think learning is, the whole thing about the way we learn is crazy. And a lot of things. Anyway, I don't want to get into that all.
Or I know I can't be the only entrepreneur too that like people would always say, and they still do, which is where I'm starting to like take a step back more, but people are like, I don't know how you do all the things that you do. Or like, I mean, Sharon's seen my calendar. Sharon and Talitha will look at my calendar and be like, what is that? Like, there's no free time. And for years I was like proud of that. I was like, well, like we all have 24 hours in a day. If I can do 5 million things, why can't
Why
everybody
can't
else
you?
do
Yeah.
5 million? Yeah. So, but yeah, and it's funny because now it's like I bring up my calendar and like people in my life are like, I don't know how you do that. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't know how I do that either.
That's the break. You are like, that's the threshold moment. Oh, you know what else I have that people could do? Sharon and I just finished this. I recorded, it's being at the threshold. So all of these different moments for us, like that describes a threshold moment. Like we don't know what's going to look like after, but to see it, to be like, wait a minute, I don't know how I do this either. Now what, right? So the threshold moment could be the breaking point. You lost someone, you have an illness, or you recovered from an illness, and there's a whole new view on life when that happens too, right? There's a whole what if. I survived all this, I have new perspective. How do I want the rest of it to go? And it can feel really scary to be at the threshold because we think there's nothing on the other side, or it rattles your world. You're standing in a place that's like, I had a crisis in my family this past winter that's ongoing, that changed everything in how we do things. And in it, it felt like chaos, but what it was the threshold toward health and change and a new way. So I have this 5-day, and they're just about 10 minutes long or a little less. And they just talk about acknowledging the threshold where you can be standing, where it's okay to be. I'm not about like rushing you to the next solution. I don't believe in that, because I do believe if we're listening to our intuition, if we're tuned into our highest self and potential, that will come in time. And my husband always says, you're never in time, but you're on time, something like that. But his idea is like, you're just at the train station, another train is going to come if you miss one. It's not a big deal. And that's something that we don't feel. I missed the boat, I missed the wave. I was talking about the example of the wave, right? But keep bobbing on the wave, keep looking for the right one to take you in. And if nothing else, the water was beautiful, you were bobbing out there, you didn't drown, you didn't get eaten by a shark, and it was a good day in Hawaii. Like, yay, right? It was great.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. So, Diane, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And we are going to put your links in our show notes so people can connect. And if they go to your site, they can find all of these offerings, right?
Right, Sharon? Sharon's going to answer that.
We will have them up there. Yes, we will
Thank you.
have
So
everything
yes,
up
there'll
there.
be the threshold meditation. I also have a 10-day writing, a daily email that comes for 10 days for women writers, and one specifically 5 days for memoir writers. And I do have an upcoming, the 5-week course on intuition in business and writing, or creative projects. And I have a couple of books that you could take a look at, and a blog you could sign up for. And of course, people are welcome to ask me about Dark Moon Circle, which is a membership-based thing. So, and I'd love for you to explore with me before. It's kind of the inner circle. So yeah, it takes a little while to get there, but hey, mystery schools, right? They're important, and there's something different.
That's right.
Wonderful. So so we will have everything in the show notes. And for everybody listening in, we are so glad that you are here, and that we hope that you tune in again in 2 weeks for our next episode. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Diane.
I want to thank both of you too. Thanks, girls.
All right.
Welcome.